What's up? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to rise and shred. Are you ready for the day? Jacob is looking clean shaven. Absolutely. Look at that. Smooth as a baby's bottom, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that side profile. It doesn't, you even get a haircut too? Like you were just looking clean shaven all around, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is Monday. It is time to rise and shred. We have so many topics, and you're probably wondering, Are Josh and Jacob getting a little clickbaity? What are these topics I'm reading about? Because we're discussing, are mortgages really racist? We're talking about the incredible LGBTQ community, the mortgage boost that no one knows about. And of course, we're talking about vaxxers and anti-vaxxers. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? We're about to. I don't know if Jacob and I are even ready, but we're about to. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to rise and shred. Love our intro. I don't know what, just that beat gives me like, yeah. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a Monday. I can't believe it's September 30th. We're almost through. August. We're almost into September, August 30th. Summer has ended. Your kids are back to school. Everybody, it just seems like everybody's back in full swing. Either you're back at the office. Many people are back to home. Jacob and I have talked about that. But we've got so many things to talk about. But before we do, Jacob Gaffney, clean shaven, looking handsome as ever. How was your weekend, my friend?
It was good to okay. There's Josh, I'm from New Orleans. My wife's from New Orleans, so we're dealing with some evacuations. We're taking care of our family. We're making sure everyone's safe. Some are left behind. Some come and visit us over here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we're just running and gunning, man, dealing with what every New Orleanian knows to be true, is that the rest of the nation hates you and will leave you out to die and in the flood by yourself. So you're on your own. So we're going through that. We go through this about once every 4 or 5 years, where we capture the nation's attention and in a not good way. So now that leads us great into our show, capturing the attention, but not in a good way. Three extremely controversial topics that we spent more than probably enough time talking about, but we have decided, ladies and gentlemen, that the daily diary of the mortgage industry needs to address these issues because they're important. They're out there, and we're reporting on them.
Well, we want to say this discretionary at the very beginning. We did not create these stories. We are the number one and only daily diary of the mortgage industry. We do this every single Monday. If you don't subscribe to Rise and Shred, you need to, and you'll really get an understanding for what our team here at Rise and Shred, Jacob, Nora, everybody who's involved with our team, what we try to put together, what we try to inform you of. And many of these things are not that we're not creating these stories. We're sharing them. We're making sure that you understand them, and we are sharing things that you need to know. There are discussions that are happening and things that do affect us. At the bottom, at the very end of it, we are affected by these things. So we are discussing these, but again, these are not. We actually got, before we get into even this first one, like I really want to make sure that everybody, we're not the ones saying these things, right, Jacob? We want to make sure people understand that.
But Josh, people are saying these things about us.
Yes, they are.
They are basically throwing this litter over the fence into our backyard. What are we supposed to do? Right. What are we supposed to do with that? Right? Yep. Are we meant to just accept it? In the case that we're talking about, I thought that the mortgage industry had made great strides in the field of discrimination. I thought the current administration had done a pretty good job of getting out in front of it. The people I've talked to have seen progress. Okay. It's not happening overnight. It's not taking, but there is an article that came out that categorically declared that the mortgage technology, which is a big term,
huge.
Right? It's a big term, that the technology is racist. There's no other way to interpret the article other than to say that the technology, so we're not racist anymore. Our technology is racist because I guess the people who programmed it had unconscious bias. I don't know. The info is all in the Rise and Shred, as well as the industry's response. which was the most important thing. Like, I mean, I don't know anybody who's actively seeking to inject discrimination into the mortgage application process. I have never met anybody trying to do so consciously, unconsciously, or nothing. All right. Now, can we deny that there's bias in the system?
No.
Well, we can actually if we want to, but
Sure.
then that alienates the people who have the complaints, right? So we do need to increase the level of home ownership across the board, Josh. Some people have more home ownership than others. And I don't know if you noticed, but when Josh, everyone out there, when Josh takes something very, very seriously, his energy drops. So that's how I know.
It's
that's
true.
how I know that we're talking a deep subject, because he's not, he is going to sit there and so just remember that about you. It's your tell. So I'm not taking you to Vegas anytime soon. Okay.
Jacob will read me like a book, ladies and gentlemen. He's got me. He knows.
So the article, that's the most disturbing thing about this article to me, Josh, is not the claims. It's not anything. Is that the Mortgage Bankers Association, and we published their response in full. And you got to read that, man.
You do.
They told the authors of the research ahead of time. They showed them these are the ways in which your interpretations are flawed.
Yep.
Now, I don't know who doesn't take the Mortgage Bankers Association's advice on mortgages.
Seriously, yep.
I mean, by wholesalely ignoring it, they clearly had an agenda.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going to take it. Is there discrimination in housing? Are our programs rejecting Black homeowner applicants at a much greater number? Well, we can't figure that out if the coverage of it is going forward with very much a flawed outlook. Some of the claims in which now the Mortgage Bankers Association is saying that they disregarded FHA data. FHA is an amazing and extremely onerous lending platform for the homeowner. Yep. Which is something that doesn't get talked about much. And the FHA has defended its high costs for years, right? Saying that, look, we're trying to get you on. We want you to refi out of this. We want you to refi out of this. I mean, who doesn't write a loan for life? Well, I get no one does, but to completely disregard the FHA and its role in first-time home ownership, which the MBA is basically asserting that they didn't factor in FHA lending accurately. Right. It questions the entire article from the mortgage lender's perspective.
Absolutely.
What it does not do is send the message that I just described to you. That message is not going anywhere outside of our own space. That is the frustration. There is no way the authors are going to go back and go like, you know what? We were off with this one. So, read it. It's a very fraught and challenging issue that we're facing. And it will feel like, from a mortgage lender's perspective, that you read this and it's almost discouraging in many ways. I don't know how you read it, Josh, but I felt like, I felt it kind of unfairly targeted the efforts. And on top of that, it doesn't even mention the gains that have been made in recent years. It doesn't mention it's just one negative hit after another. And, are these issues real? Yes, they are. But where's the balance?
See, and that's what reading this, just like you said, when I read it, there was no balance. And that's why I'm trying to pull it up here. I don't know why I can't find it, because I was going to share it up here so you guys could. Make sure you go read it. I will tag it in the link below so you guys can make sure you read the entire story. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because there was no balance. The biggest thing that we always find when we talk and I think I shared with you, the email that I got was some of the terminology, some of the things that we got questioned about was the racial equality of it. And then I'm just like, hey, you know what? This is always going to be one of those topics. There needs to be a balanced discussion on it, and it's just not happening. Here's the thing: the reason you and I are having some of these discussions this morning is because you and I are one of the few people who are actually willing to come on and talk about it. Everybody wants to skirt the issue aside. Everybody wants to sweep it under the rug. Although it's this huge, absolutely glaring issue at all of us, nobody wants to come out and talk about it. Everybody's too scared. Our industry. Oh man, I almost said something. I'm glad I didn't say it. Our industry is a little bit timid. I'll put it that way to be nice. They're timid when it comes to these discussions. Nobody wants to have it. Everybody wants to make sure they keep safe. They don't want to go outside of those bounds. They don't want to step outside those bounds. So I guess we're the only ones who are willing to have the bravery to do it.
It's easy on the surface. It's a very well-researched, well-written piece.
It is.
I don't want to say it should not have been published. I'm not like that. At Housing Wire, when I was the editor-in-chief there, we several times got people who didn't like our coverage. I had one major marketer for a major lender. I won't say it now, but there was something they didn't like. They wanted to take all of the magazines, have them shipped to their office, and throw them on a bonfire. And I don't know about you, but I don't really like the concept of book burning our way to solutions here. Okay.
Yeah,
but there has to be a balance. There has to be
Absolutely.
an understanding that you can't just on the wholesale accuse an entire industry of being racist right down to its programmatic level. For one, the logic doesn't follow through because you're somehow releasing the actual people from the blame against the accusation that you yourself are forwarding in their direction. So there's that. That doesn't make much sense. But there are technology. Okay. All right. Well, let's go there for a second, Josh. Let's say our algorithms are racist. Well, how do we fix that?
Good question.
Exactly. The silence speaks volumes. We would want to fix it. That's the thing. And that's what's not mentioned. So again, we have just one of these major issues, and it got picked up everywhere. Okay, Josh, it was everywhere. If you do a Google alert on the markup, you're gonna return so many hits. It was a huge success. It was a great article, but it lacks the balance. We're hoping in a couple of days we'll see a follow-up. We'll see a response. The NBA did what they could. Dave Stevens wrote an op-ed. He did what he could. The American Bankers Association, they at least published their entire response, right? Which we published in the Rise and Shred. But the American Bankers Association is not the ideal response here. The Mortgage Bankers Association put out the ideal response. They're the ones defending the industry, and they got no response. And to find out later that they were actually working with the authors to improve the accuracy of their work, which the authors then discredited, it's a very frustrating, difficult, and challenging issue. And I feel like we've taken a step back, Josh.
This was the market we're talking about. This is not our Rise and Shred, ladies and gentlemen. I was trying to find a Rise and Shred link for it, but this is part of the article you're referring to, right, Jacob?
Yeah, and there you go. First line.
Yep.
Loan applicants of color, 40 to 80% more likely to be denied than their white counterparts. 40 to 80%, Josh, is a huge number.
Huge number, man. Like that's, I don't think people understand. Like that number is just absolutely like, and like you said, this reading it when we posted about it, when I read it, I was like, hey, it's a well-written article. Just you go read it yourselves. That's what Jacob and I are here to do. Is we're not trying to sway one opinion or another. We're sharing this information so you can go read it. You can become educated. That's what we're all about. You need to become educated. We talk about this every single week. That's why we write the Rise and Shred. That's why we share Rise and Shred every single day, is because these type of things, these discussions need to be understood so you can more eloquently, so you can speak about them. You can be educated on them. So there you go. Anything else on that, Jacob, you have that you want to share?
I think that's it for now, but I have a feeling, Josh, we're going to have to continue to address this issue.
Oh, of course we are.
And we'll have to just make it something that it's just going to continue to get coverage and understanding. And I do agree with you, but I want to be clear that I do feel that in our space there has been attention brought to this article. There has been, some press that it did get in our space. So I don't want to discount, the people that are making their own good efforts to give this a little bit of airtime on our own platforms. But again, it's just frustration for everyone all around. And it feels like it's not moving in a positive direction when articles such as these are posted and promoted so dramatically.
Yep. There you go. That's a good way to segue into our next topic, because this is something that, again, no one is talking about, no one really knows about, but the LGBTQ community has got a mortgage boost, or the LGBTQ community has given a mortgage boost that really no one's discussing, right?
Yeah, it's in the works, right? And that's why no one's discussing it. So that's your clickbait for you this morning.
There you go. Gotcha.
No one's discussing it because no one knows about it except for you, me, and the listeners of this show. Okay, so basically, the federal government put out a study last month saying that the LGBTQ community was disproportionately impacted in home ownership levels because of COVID-19. Okay, so for whatever reasons that COVID-19 has hit the LGBTQ community the hardest of all the communities.
Interesting.
So the government is now making efforts to reverse that. And how do you economically empower people? How do you give them the biggest, the best, the number one tool in the shed for getting people back on track with their lives, economically speaking, is home ownership.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
Now, it doesn't happen overnight. So the federal government is now in the middle, and there's several different, we can't pinpoint, we haven't covered in Rise and Shred because we can't pinpoint a single agency. This is just a generalized thing that's happening
out there,
and it's coming. So you have to look at several different little parts. So you take a look at the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau suddenly started putting the LGBTQ as self-identifying, right?
Yep.
In different federal document loan applications for aid, for federal document loan applications. Now, this has been for a long time for asylum, right? For asylum seekers, you've been able to declare yourself as transgender, for example, because that could be a reason for your oppression in your homeland, right? So now they're moving that identifier over into documents so that we can see them more and more. They're not putting it into home loan documents yet.
Interesting.
But it's coming. It's coming, and it's not that far away. What they have to do is they have to normalize it. It has to become accepted. We can't just throw this onto our documents and expect an entire $1 trillion massive industry to not have to do it.
Exactly.
You change one line in any single document, and Fannie Mae has to put out a servicing alert on it, and then people are like, they have tons of questions, right? So this is a major issue. So the federal government is slowly introducing this in order to build the home ownership along the LGBTQ community. So, but first they have to normalize it. So now census documents are including these identifiers. They're going to start including language where you can identify as these things separate. And it's not that different. It's not that unique to when they introduced the non-Hispanic identifier, if you recall that.
I do.
Right? So you can be Latin non-Hispanic, for example. And there's a lot of reasons for it. So the only thing that's important is to not get in a wad about it and to get upset about seeing it, because there could be some things there that you individually don't feel that it's necessary. You may feel that in the loan document process, you can identify as male or female, and that's fine. And you don't need any other options, and that's fine. But from a data perspective, Josh, that doesn't work.
Right.
So being able to have multi-fields in examining the data is going to enable people like you and I to go and look back at the lending process. The whole data fields is why you and I can take a look at that markup article and be like, well, there are several different factors here that look at the data wrong. The data sets you free.
Yep.
The data always sets you free. Why? Because the data doesn't care about whether or not your algorithm's racist. It's the results of all of our efforts. And the more that we can be inclusive in it, the more information we can get, the more lending we can do,
right?
Which is what we're after. Now, there are ways to increase lending, and there are ways to not increase lending. And I would like to think that the best ways to increase lending is to be something that's more inclusive. So I like that we're having the conversation about whether or not our algorithms are racist. If they are, we're going to fix them. Right?
Absolutely.
Yep. I like that we're going to start to give more credence to people who identify as LGBTQ, okay? Sure. Because they'll get a home, do you know?
Yep.
We want more blacks in homes. We want more Hispanics in homes. We want more whites in homes. I don't think we should be denying homes to people who aren't vaccinated. I think there's a line that got crossed.
Big time.
And Neat Capital, and I want to hear your responses, but Neat Capital said they're going to give a $500 discount, not a credit.
A discount.
Not a credit. They're going to give a discount to home applicants who are vaccinated. It's a good idea. You should get vaccinated. 167 million people have been vaccinated. The side effects, when compared to death, are, data speaking, fewer. So it's the route to go. Okay.
Right.
So that's a hard one to deny. And if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's fine. Wear a mask. But that's really where the delineation should end, because this is a very political discussion. So Neat Capital says they're going to offer a discount on mortgages to vaccinated borrowers. What have your shred masses been telling you about this one, Josh?
All of our shredders, we had over a dozen emails on this one, and I thought about, I should have done a better job editing them, some of them, and putting up so you couldn't see names. I didn't get to that this morning, but we got at least a dozen emails on this one, Jacob. Just people saying like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys." And again, this goes back to where we started here, ladies and gentlemen, with Rise&Shred. Is we did not. This is not us. We are not neat. Like, we're just we are the Daily Diary. We're sharing with you because, again, we want you to be aware of it. Is it discriminatory? Very possibly. Like, this goes right along line with what we're talking about all day on our show today. And I got over a dozen emails, Jacob. I think it was probably 14 in total, that people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is totally discriminatory. Why? Like, how are they getting away with this? Why isn't the CFPB getting involved?" And I'm just like, well, hey, again, don't shoot the messenger here, ladies and gentlemen. We're reporting on this because we agree. Like, we see this is one of those practices. This, in my opinion, this is Josh here speaking. This is exactly one of those examples that get companies in huge trouble. That's like, whoa, wait a second. Like, can you actually do this? And again, like you said, vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, that in itself is already a political discussion. And again, we're not telling you to, like, whatever your personal beliefs are, we're not telling you to go get vaccinated. If you have, fantastic. And it's one of those conversations, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But this in particular, when I saw this, when I was just like, this is one of those things, we're going to see other companies. Delta, one of my favorite companies out there. I mean, I'll mention this story just because Delta mentioned that they're giving their employees, they're getting penalized for healthcare. They're having to pay $200 more a month if they are not vaccinated. These are some of those things that are creating discrimination. Like, again, whether it doesn't matter race, it doesn't matter, LGBTQ in this reference. It is all about what your personal beliefs are. And this is one of those that I just see is Neat is going to see some ramifications of this one. I just don't think you can get away with this. And like you said, this is right here. This is a $500 discount. This is not a credit. This is not one of those things that typically in your wording you can kind of slide by. I know, Jacob, there was a lot of people, I would say, and I'll say this, half the emails I got were like, that's a great idea, good for them, we want to push vaccination. And the other half were like, how could this is totally discriminatory, they can't get away with this, blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts?
I think a discount is a fancy marketing term for charging other people more. And I think that's really what we're talking about. Is Neat wants to charge people who are unvaccinated more, and maybe in their markets that's a great play for them. Sure. I do think that the very, very interesting thing is that Neat Capital put this out in the market with the other issues that we've been talking about, and it's got not a national press. Zip. So, it hasn't really been picked up. And I think that they probably were anticipating a lot more traction with their announcement, which has remained to be seen. I think that they're going to have to do a secondary push from a marketing perspective to get more people talking about this, because I have a suspicion that not enough people are talking about it, because this is very clearly an effort to get some sort of subject out there and talking about it. It was a very brief press release. And I think, it was an attempt to jump onto something bigger. And Josh, I have to go back to say, as an industry, we have to start asking ourselves some extremely deep questions. And when we reflect on our industry, are we really fully appreciating the fact that we are targeted by outside forces, vis-a-vis the earlier discussion we had this morning?
Right.
There are those who seek to undermine our efforts each and every day, and that's not a normal thing to live and work with. But you have to remember, and look, hey, we've faced it ourselves in our own creating this. We've faced it ourselves. There are people who seek to destroy you.
Yep.
And we really need to be comprehensive of that situation.
Absolutely.
And I think that we need to be proactive in terms of our behavior. This need capital overcharging people who are unvaccinated, that they are reacting to an issue that has grown into a political quagmire.
Yep.
And we're right in the middle of it. So with the back to school, we're right in the middle of it, where you have school boards convening where 65% of the people are refusing to wear masks, refusing to support mask mandates. And the school board is still voting for mask mandates when governors have declared that you can't ban masks, and teachers are telling their students, I won't teach. We had a teacher who quit because one student in their college classroom, one student refused to wear a mask, and he said, you know what, F this, I'm out.
Wow.
So we've got another 29 students who lose out on their education because of the actions of one student. And so we're going to highlight this for the mortgage industry. I'm not sure this is such a great strategy.
Agreed.
But we'll see. We can check Need Capital's HMDA numbers, which the MBA says are completely inaccurate. But we can, again, follow up and look and see if they were lending to any LGBTQs. So
there you go.
I don't know what we've accomplished, but we've done something here today.
But that's what we've done something. We've done our part, or at least we're taking action. We're having the discussions. We're educating the entire community, our industry that you and I have talked about so many times. We've dedicated our lives. We've dedicated our focus. And that's like, we're doing our part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, that's just it. And that's why we bring you these discussions. That's why we bring you these topics. Although they may be controversial, they may be things that you're like, wow, I can't believe they're talking about those. We're here. We're talking about them. And hopefully we're getting you educated. Hopefully you're going to go do with some of these links. And that's why you should subscribe every single day to Rise and Shred. We link out. Jacob and our entire team do such an incredible job. We are the daily diary of the mortgage industry. We share those topics, the discussion points that are truly affecting our industry. So go subscribe. If you haven't already, you're missing out. You want to subscribe to the number one and only daily diary of the mortgage industry. Jacob, great discussion points this morning. So much to unravel, unpack in there. We appreciate your expertise and your knowledge. Guys, we're not just throwing shit around, just hoping like, oh, hopefully this is like, hey, we're just guessing on this stuff. We're doing our research. We're doing our homework. And that's how we can actually have a very educational and informal conversation for you. Jacob, you're looking good. Thank you so much for being here this morning. That smoothness just looks awesome. I think that made the show.
Don't get used to it. Don't get used to it.
Okay, all right, good to know. Good to know. What the hell, ladies and gentlemen? You guys are awesome. We appreciate you joining us this morning. As always, we couldn't do it without you. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the emails, the feedback. Keep sending it our way. Help us continue to grow and become and sustain the number one and only daily diary of the mortgage industry. With that, we appreciate you. We love you. We hope you have an incredible week. And don't forget to shred, show up, hustle, repeat every day. See you guys.